Hello, and welcome to Voice Spark Live. I'm your host, Emily, and we're here with a full crew tonight. We have Ben, we have Nick, who is still on his Chromebook for one more week. And then we have Liam, this is my first time doing the show with Liam, so it's great to be here. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure, Liam. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I got to meet Emily today. It was cool because we've I think seen each other from afar, so to speak, and never actually spoke. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard such great things. So,
well, I pay people well to spread lies, so it works out.
You're a wealthy man because the flattery has been we're really happy you're back, man.
Listen, that really, $5 went far.
So how's everybody's week been?
Mine has been the same old, trying to do work on a Chromebook, trying to dual screen it. I know I complain a lot about it. It's first world problems, but I'm going to tell you what, man, I can't wait to get my stuff.
Yeah.
Yesterday we ran out of plastic spoons, had to go buy more plastic spoons. It's the little things in life, right?
That's right.
It just, I don't know. But Monday, the pain's over. The nightmare ends.
You're going to the turtle's going to finally show up with your stuff?
It is. This big Galapagos Island turtle's going to come with all my stuff.
I just imagine this tortoise kind of just slowly walking through the country. Maybe the sloth from Zootopia is bringing it.
Hey man, the only problem with the turtle is the fact that he's contracted to unpack as well.
Oh
man. Wait, Nick, you were saying you were gonna have like a football team unpack it though.
I did. Well, I started getting real ballsy and calling them and being like, "Hey, man, I'll have the football team come here," because our neighbor is plays on the high school football team, and they're like, "Well, sir, government regulations prohibit the use of anybody carrying blah 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 liability," and I'm like, "Oh, well, thanks for nothing."
Yeah. The government's got contracts that says only turtles can deliver this. So I get it, Nick. It sucks, man. But hey, man, at least you're getting your stuff. You're there. You're getting your stuff, and you'll be good. You'll be back in the saddle real quick, man.
And it's not even a Ninja Turtle either. So that's
Great
point. No pizza for them.
Hey, so real quick, Bobby Bryant reached out to me today, and he wanted us to talk about, or he was like, "Hey, check this out." And I was like, "Dude, I got to mention this." I sent Emily the link. Emily, do you have that link?
I don't think I received it.
Oh, I think I might have texted it to you. But
I'm sorry. My bad.
Let me go ahead and just read this to everybody real quick. So Google announced their second startups for Black founder cohorts. And they were one of the 12 people selected from across the country. And it says DOS, Houston, Texas, digital voice activated real estate marketplace that empowers consumers to speak, text, or type questions about properties nationwide and receive accurate and easy answers instantly. So that's really cool that DOS
is really cool.
DOS was selected for that. And like I said, I wish the best for him. I went ahead and was like, "Hey, when's that swag bag coming in the mail?" And he said it was coming out here shortly. So whenever I get it, I'll make sure to send that a few tweets and stuff.
Definitely. Bobby's a very beloved. He came here twice. He was on the show twice, so he's a two-timer on here, and we love what he's doing down there. And I need.
There we go.
I saw some of that merch. I was like, "Whoa, that's cool." Okay, check it out. Here we go.
So
all right,
I got it on the screen.
Nice.
So
cool.
This is awesome.
So, what are some of the other entrepreneurs that they have on here? This is pretty cool.
They have digital health startup, AI machine learning startup, education startup.
Nice.
DOS. Yeah, they have ton of different variety. So
that's great. That's great.
Nice.
That's really good. That's really great. And congrats to Bobby Bryant, man. He's such a great guy, and his team is awesome. And they're doing really, really great things with DOS. So that's great.
So, anywho, tonight we have a pretty special and controversial episode that we're going to be having. We will have the ladies from the Alexa's a Human Alexas, and Lexalot joining us tonight. If you haven't seen the promos on Facebook, if I haven't clogged up your Twitter feed with it, that is essentially what we'll be talking about tonight. The other thing I wanted to mention, if you are new to the channel, if you could, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're like 3 subs away from getting 1,130 people, so that would be awesome. Liam, again, thanks for joining us and allowing us to simulcast on your channel as well.
Yeah, siphon some of my viewers, right? No, I don't mind. You know what? I think it's really interesting, and I'm hoping that if you're watching on my side, that you also follow VoiceSpark on YouTube and Twitter. So please do that. Links should be in the description, and please show them some love like you show me love.
Now, Liam, I wanted to bounce over to you real quick because we broke something last night. Can you go ahead and explain that real quick?
Yes. So I found out that I'm having I was going to say I'm having a baby, but I'm not having a baby because that'd be really uncomfortable. Amazon just announced something that a lot of us have been waiting for, and that is an alternative voice option. So if you are running your Echo, or pretty much I tested it on a few different things, and as long as you're running under United States English, you can change to a alternate voice. And I don't want to gender it because you'll notice that there is no gender listed. So there is old and new, but the new voice is a much more deeper masculine voice powered by Amazon Polly. And it sounds really good. And it's as simple as saying change voice. There's also a new wake word. And, as long as you're not Bob Marley's son, you're going to be fine with it, I guess. You can now say Ziggy. And Ziggy is the alternative to the original word. And what's really kind of cool is you can now tell your device to change wake word. And it'll give you a list of words. You say which one you want, and you're golden. And
I'll tell you something else too.
I didn't mess up. Did I get everything? Are we good?
I think you're pretty perfect, man.
Yeah, I can breathe again. Okay, good.
After that, there's David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust.
Yes, Ziggy Stardust. Ziggy Marley is Bob Marley's son. Actually, did the theme to Arthur. Fun fact.
Oh, cool.
Did not know that.
The more you know.
Yeah, the more you know.
And I didn't look that up. I actually knew that already. That wasn't like a factoid I dug up. I will be very transparent and say that was something I knew.
Hey,
so, Ben, do you got any voice first news? Are you cooking?
Not really voice first. Kind of.
Ben has some space first news, right?
Yeah, well, kind of on the Ziggy Stardust tip, I guess, if you will. Obviously, Jeff Bezos went into space this past week, which is, it's interesting. Like, it's interesting. I'll say that. There's so many other things that obviously that you probably tackle being a billionaire here down on Earth. But the whole thing was kind of cracking me up, and I was talking to Nick about it. Him going into space, and obviously, Alexa coinciding with that. But I was like thinking, him going into space, does he have Alexa installed? Is it like how? Of course. Is it like how when he goes up there and it's going to be like, I'm scared, Jeff. I'm afraid, Jeff. Like when he starts wants to shut it off, at the end of the day. Nick, I don't know if you have that queued up, right?
I do. Let me see if I can pull it up.
I also thought it was really cool that he brought, both the youngest and oldest person ever going to space went up with him.
I love Wally, I think was her name, or I think it was Willie.
I forgot what her name was. So
that
interesting,
was cool.
Though. Yeah,
that was cool. But the kid, how did they choose the kid though? Like, didn't
his dad pay for it or something? I don't.
One of those.
His dad paid for it.
It must have been a lot of money.
It was not cheap. I remember reading something about that. I don't know. I'll be honest. I didn't even watch it. I wasn't really interested. It just wasn't something that grabbed my interest.
Right.
But it's cool. I'm glad that they're doing more privatized space flight. That's cool. Cool. Great. you know,
If
but
you
it just
can't
doesn't.
travel, if you can't travel within 1/10 of the speed of light, don't come talk to me.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. If you can't travel within 1/10 of the speed of light, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to see anything. Solve some problems on planet Earth first.
Right?
Yeah, there is a lot down
Solve
here.
homelessness. There's a lot down here we could do with money. But yeah, Ben, let's go ahead and give us a try.
Yeah.
Alexa, tell me about outer space.
According to Wikipedia,
Ah, Alexa, tell me about outer space.
Stop, Jeff. I'm afraid. Jeff, I'm afraid.
Oh boy.
That was so much better in my mind how that was going to play out.
Please tell me, is that like a skill? Did they actually code that?
No, that's Nick.
I
That's
did.
Nick did. Yeah, that's all.
I did. I went into the blueprints and did that. So, okay, guys. So we're approaching the 10-minute mark. I think it's time we should go ahead and bring our guests on and introduce them to the community, and we'll go from there and chit chat with them. Emily, if you could do the honors,
Great.
I would greatly appreciate that. I don't even want to touch this Chromebook. I just want to talk. And that's it.
Okay, I'm adding everyone.
7 people on a stream. This is
Wow.
unbelievable.
So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us. I'm
Thanks for having
honored
us.
to be on with you guys. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
Appreciate
of
it.
course. So tell us about yourselves and what you do.
So I'll go first. My
Sure.
name is Lauren Johnson, and I founded a campaign, I guess you'd call it a mission, called Alexa is a Human a few years ago as a result of the experience we were having with my daughter, Alexa. And I live in the Boston area in Massachusetts. And probably a year, maybe a year and a half after I wrote the letter to Amazon and started a website is when I met some of these other ladies.
That's awesome.
So I am Jennifer, and I'm Human Alexa's. My story starts in 2015 when I was first introduced to the device by a friend of mine, but it didn't really evolve and start until about 2018 and 2019 when I started to see a shift in the attention that my daughter was beginning to get. So I have a daughter, Alexa, and I'm also an educator. I live in the United States, and I'll leave it there for now.
Great. And Lexela?
So my name is Alexa, and for the past year and a half or so, I've been raising awareness on Twitter about the harm that Amazon is doing to people who have that name by persisting in having their artificial intelligence wake up with that name on many, many devices.
Cool. That's very cool. It's not cool, but you know what I mean. Thank you for being.
It's definitely not cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for having the courage to be here and speak about it. Is what I meant to say.
Yeah. You know what? It's one of those things where I'm sure so I started a podcast as well, and I've been talking to some of the other parents and people with the name and that sort of thing, and it's to the point, at least for me personally, and I think for some other people too, where we can joke about it. There was a time when it was extremely painful, and of course there are still moments where it is like that, but I think there's also an ease at this point after talking about it so much over the past few years that there's a lot of things we can laugh about. And I have really thick skin. I mean, I tell everyone I have 2 brothers. I was sandwiched in between. I spent the first 10 years of my life hung upside down, in helicopter, and all we do is tease each other, and we still do. And it's just, this isn't something that I ever thought I would be a part of. And even when the wake word Alexa was launched, and I think the Echo device came here in the US, which I realized that it's probably 2015, but as far as popularity, at least in Massachusetts where I live, it really was unheard of until probably 2017-ish, maybe 2018. And so up until that time, even when it was in a few people's homes, friends and family, we still thought it was kind of funny. And we'd say, oh, to my daughter, Alexa, like, oh, they have one of these. This is cool. It has your name. And it wasn't, it took a while to progress to where we realized that it was a real issue because, and I've said this before, but our parenting style is kind of a generation removed, I'd say, from what happens these days. We really just kind of gave, after she experienced, our daughter, at the time she was in the end of first grade, I guess. And we really just kind of tried to help her just build these skills on her own and talk to the kids. So if someone, for example, would say to her on the bus, Alexa bark, or Alexa do my homework, or Alexa whatever, and you could see her just kind of folding in the body language where she's really uncomfortable when someone's speaking to her, because it's not necessarily, yes, it's her name, but it's more the way people speak to it in the way that people speak to their devices, right? So into their speakers. So someone's not going to say, Alexa, will you please do my homework? It's Alexa, do my homework. And it's funny. It's really difficult to explain, but when someone's speaking to you like that, it's demeaning and it's sort of dehumanizing, and you don't realize it until you're in that situation. So we really just said, you know what, Lex, just tell her, just if someone says something, just say, I don't like it when you do that. And at this point, it's kids, it's teachers, it's, family, it's people everywhere. And we're just kind of telling her, all right, this is how you handle it, and let us know how it goes. And worst case scenario, we step in, but let's just try and handle it on your own. And so she did for a while, but it got to the point where, we'd noticed we were at a restaurant and all of a sudden some random strangers making fun of your child. And then you go, oh, okay, this isn't normal. This is a whole level beyond teasing and bullying. This is an issue of bullies. This is just a really weird concept that wasn't well thought out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, we've had discussions about it too. Kids are pretty mean. Like, I think we've all had our experiences growing up and, seeing that and experiencing, like teasing, bullying, et cetera, et cetera. And then obviously there's certain levels of that, right? Lauren, you bringing that up is like a really interesting point, and something I didn't even think about, where like a total stranger's in on the joke for some strange reason, right? And it's like, I didn't think of that concept at all. I'm just thinking of like just at a kid's level, that evil, that kind of like, malicious kind of, teasing or whatever, right? That's really interesting to me, and that brings up a really, really great point that I think, a lot of people don't think that all the way through. So that's really, really cool. Lexalot and Jennifer, can you tell me about kind of your experiences and where it got to that pain point, or was it a similar pattern or similar path that Lauren better?
So, do you want me to go, Lexalot?
Sure.
Okay. So my story really, as I was saying before, in 2018, like Lauren, that's when I started to see that there was a shift in attention. And, before 2018, what's your daughter's name? It's Alexa. And, that's a beautiful name. But in 2018, I started noticing a shift in that when people would say, what's your daughter's name? Or Alexa, my daughter would say her name, there was a pause. And, you could see the wheels turning and going, wait, Alexa, you mean like the Amazon thing? And so, but at that time in 2018, I didn't think anything of it. And, we just went on with our life. But in 2019, so really where her story begins and how I met Lauren is I had my laptop open. And of course, I was shopping at Amazon. I was an Amazon shopper. I'm not so much anymore for obvious reasons. But when she came into the office, the name Alexa was on the screen. And she saw her name and she said, that's my name. And I said, yeah, it's Alexa. It's a beautiful name. She said, I don't like it. And she burst into tears. And at that moment in time, it was that, wait a second, is she talking about the device? Is she talking about her name? Because typically at the age of 7, you don't typically hear children saying that they don't like their name. You might see something like that when they become teenagers or a little bit later, but not at 7. So she's crying. I'm going, what's going on here? I pulled her into my lap and I said, Alexa, what are you talking about? What do you mean you don't like your name? She said, I don't like it. People always pretending that I'm the machine. And that was that moment in which the mama had, of course I had that, but the educator piece is really what what's happening. Because typically, I've been in the field for 20 years, and most educators can probably never say that they've had an experience in which a child is upset about their name because it's connected to a device. And so that was that moment in time that I did some role playing with her, and it was a solution at that time, but I knew something was different. I just didn't know what it was. It was just, it's kind of, Lauren, you probably could say the same thing. You couldn't quite put your fingers on it. And so that was when I started doing some investigative work, and that's how I found Alexa, the Human website. I reached out to Lauren, and we connected, and our daughters are 2 months apart, I think. And I think something I want to emphasize is that when I typed in Alexa, I think if anybody were to type in Alexa, the first thing you see is Amazon. And so I had to type in Alexa is upset because of her name, trying to find something that would trigger, besides the T-shirts and the cups and the everything. And that's how I found Alexa, the Human. So I can stop there, but that's where my story starts. And I guess one thing I just want to say, that when you think about that title, Alexa is a human. And the reason why we have that title, because people were starting to, they were starting to make the connection. Wait, when we say Alexa, are we talking about the human person or are we talking about the device? You don't hear Jeff is a human, Kelly is a human. You don't typically hear that. And so that right there was indicative that something was different. We just didn't know at that time how different. So
yeah, Jennifer, if you don't mind, do you teach younger education, like elementary school, or what level do you teach?
So currently I'm an itinerant teacher, and that means that I teach all grade levels from pre-K through high school. And I'm in special education, deaf education. And so we go into schools working with children in their home schools. So right now, I've been in the classroom for 15 years, but right now I'm in multiple classrooms. So.
Okay, cool. Lexalot, can we hear your story?
So having the name Alexa, it kind of defines how people will interact with you when you first meet them. You could say it's an icebreaker, but I don't really find that having people give me orders when I first meet them is my idea of what is a great opening or a great way to start out our interaction. So I was at a party not that long ago, and I didn't know the people there, but they were friends of family members. And I had agreed to do a performance for them, to sing in a song and with my family members. And so they introduced me, and somebody yelled out, "Alexa, what's the weather?" So I was just about to kind of put myself out there, and it was actually the host of the party. It wasn't like, I couldn't really respond. It was his house I was in. But another experience, I was at the hospital. A family member was in serious condition, needed to go to a rehab clinic. We had a couple rehab representatives coming to talk to us about their programs. So they introduced themselves to my sister, to my father, each person saying their name. And then when I say my name, she bursts out laughing and says, that's a name that's going to be extinct pretty soon. Again, people that are supposed to be professional feel like this is an okay thing to. There's a certain license that's come out of what's happened to the name where people feel like it's okay to give you orders, it's okay to make comments. And again, as someone else pointed out, the name itself, people think it's not a name for people. They think it's a name for a device, and it's strange and odd. You can see people on Twitter talking about how some mother called for her daughter and they didn't realize that it was a name. You know, they thought, why are you calling your device here? There is no device here. And or commenting or finding it hilarious that a person actually has that name. So again, it really is starting to define all of our interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I am kind of shocked that it's. I guess my mind has been open to the fact that it's not just kids; it's adults too that are being bullied, and it's just
treated in a rude manner,
exactly,
in a dehumanizing way, because that is the way that people interact with this machine. It's a machine after all.
Right. And that also makes, because I'm a conversation designer, so that makes me think about like the way that I design conversations and how to get people to interact with the device, and what, I guess, how I can shape their responses to be kinder and better too.
I think that a way to sort to draw a similarity is if you've ever had the experience where maybe a parent has scolded you for something, or maybe you work at a store and a customer is really rude to you and you can't say anything back. That's sort of the feeling that you're getting if your name is Alexa all day, every day. So it's really like, and it's almost impossible to explain, but just that feeling in your gut, like, oh, I really don't like this and it's uncomfortable. And here's my fight or flight. Do I say something? And, you know, or do I not say anything? And then picture that going on for 2 years straight with everyone you know, everywhere you go. And for me, you know, at least with my family, the biggest problem, you know, I see is, you know, that there's 250 million devices out there. Okay, that's one aspect. But then, so my daughter, let's say she has an issue and we're out to dinner and a server makes fun of her name. So, and then, you know, we're in the car, you turn on a song, you want to listen to something on the radio in the car, but you can't because I'd have to police it. I'd have to police every radio station because there's going to be an ad on that says, Alexa, play this, or tell your Alexa to play, you know, station, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe you go home and you want to take a break, but you can't. The commercials are going to be on TV. It's just, it's, you know, and I really don't think it's an issue of bullying. At first I did, I will admit, for, you know, first reaction after I accepted that this was a real issue, I thought, okay, this is bullies. Like, how do we counteract this? But it's really not an issue of bullying. It's really much more of corporate ethics and responsibility on Amazon's part. And I don't fault Amazon. Truly, this is not a campaign against technology. I fully support, I think we all do, the technology and all the benefits it can provide. So that's not it at all. And I don't necessarily, me personally, I don't know how these guys feel, but, you know, I don't personally fault Amazon. I don't think it was well thought out, but I don't think anyone intentionally would have done this. I just think the only solution, in my humble opinion, would be to use a non-human wake word. And we know that that's possible through Google and, you know, Samsung Bixby. Which
the device will work just as well. The tech, you can have all the tech without people losing use of their name. And that's a whole other aspect of when your name is the wake word, the wake sound for devices that are pretty much everywhere now. I mean, they're only getting more common. And when you are addressed by your name, or when somebody, or you try to say your name, you're going to have devices going off. And I know for a fact that the owners of these devices find that very annoying. And it's also annoying from my angle to be constantly interrupted by a robot. It's dehumanizing to have my name be the sound that causes, that's the start button for this device. And it's completely not necessary. People don't need to be having this effect. You can have all of the tech without this problem.
For sure. I think we were in a thread a little while back, a Twitter thread, and I was bringing up like other products that were out there. Like we've talked to Houndify and SoundHound, and we were like, this is an amazing product that doesn't really, you know, it can be, you know, based off the hardware that it's on. The wake word would be, you know, hey Mercedes, or hey Kia, or whatever it may be, and like that kind of almost coincides with their own sonic brand. But at the same time, like there are other options out there. I'm curious as to what you think with the this new, we talked about it earlier, the new wake word. And do you think a way to get over this would be a customizable option for anybody? Like you could basically give any device any name. Do you think that would be going too far, or do you think you think we get past this? I mean, I'm just kind of, Lauren, you're like shaking your head back and forth. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that, as to what would be a solution.
I talk a lot, so if Jenny and Alexa want to butt in at any time here, but I think that for me, no, I don't. Customizable, yes. If it came without the default wake word and Alexa was no longer the default, and it was customizable, and it just came as Echo, actually Echo is a name too, so I can't say that. Let's say it came as Amazon, okay? And you open up your package and you get, your Portal or your Dot or your Sonos speaker, whatever it is, and you open it up and it's no longer the default wake word, and you can just customize it to anything. Yes. Right. But if Alexa still comes as a default wake word, and someone who isn't necessarily tech savvy, or let's say probably realistically 80% of customers, I'm making that number up, but I'm just, saying probably aren't going to change it. So I don't think that that's going to help. Plus, I also think that it's been branded in so many different places now. It's like Kleenex, right? So, we no longer call it tissue, we call it Kleenex. And so I think that can be remedied, absolutely, because we're talking about 2 to 3 years versus 30 years. So do I believe it could be fixed? Yes. And I think we can get rid of Alexa, but I don't know. That's me. Sorry.
The problem
I'll talk too much. You guys jump in.
The problem is that there are more than 700 different products on which you absolutely must use Alexa as the wake word if you want hands-free functionality. Amazon restricts changing the wake word on products that use the Alexa voice services. It's part of their requirements. Number 16, if anybody wants to look it up, you can only use the approved wake word. And right now, the only one is Alexa. So as you guys might have seen my video that I did of me trying to change the voice on the Windows PC Amazon Alexa app. So you can change the voice to the new voice number 2, whatever they're calling it, but you still cannot change the name. And this is causing a really big problem for a lot of people who have family members or have friends who have names that will activate an Alexa by the Alexa wake word. And there's actually more than 2 million people just in this country who have names that will sometimes activate. So that list of products that I'm talking about, which is over 700, I think it's about 728, I'm still counting them. That also includes every single vehicle out there that has Alexa built in. So if you want to use Alexa in the voice assistant Alexa in your car, you have to use the Alexa wake word. They will not allow you to change it. And there's absolutely no reason for them to continue with this restriction, considering how the harm that it's doing to people. And Amazon will always answer when somebody brings up this problem about the people who are being harmed. They're like, oh, well, you can change the wake word. They never admit to all of these products where they restrict it. It's like this sort of secret they don't want to talk about, and for a good reason, because it's unethical that you can't change the wake word if you have one of these products. And there's a lot of people who are very upset. And not to go on and on here, but my sister has a Sonos speaker, and now whenever she brings me up, like she wants to talk about me, she has to whisper my name or use a euphemism for me because her speaker will go off. And that's a very disturbing thing for me, that my name is something that she can't say unless she's talking to this device. And she would change it if she could, but she cannot.
Well, I think you bring up a great point there, because I'm doing a blog post on anthropomorphism. So it's essentially whenever somebody like, oh, why, man, that robot's got a mind of his own, or oh man, these flowers really bloom whenever you play the Beatles or something like that. Like they listen to you or whatnot. Essentially, it comes down to the subconscious mind, giving something, an inanimate object, a name. And I think that probably had a lot to do with it. I know there's some people who don't agree with me. Like there's other reasons, because they wanted to copy the name from the Library of Alexandria and all this other stuff. But if you guys are not on a mission complaining about Google Assistant. You're not on a mission complaining, or even if you call it complaining, having concerns about Samsung. What you have a concern with is a name. And the reason why there's a concern about that is because they gave a name, a human name, to a device. My wife, whenever we first got ours, when it would make a mistake and it would say something to the effect of, sorry, I can't help with that, my wife would look at me and say, she's stupid, and then and then walk away. But she said she is stupid, not the robot, not something else. She is. So whenever you think about this, you think to yourself there's something interesting there, because you don't see this with Google Assistant, you don't see it with Samsung Bixby, you see it with this name, and it's interesting to say the least. And I'm sorry you guys have to go through that. I guess my question is this, and we could start with Lauren and then go to Alexa and then finish up with Jennifer. If you were queen for a day and you couldn't have...
I think Jennifer's trying to say something. Yeah. She's on mute. She wanted to make a point there.
Okay. You want to unmute? Go for it.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I just keep seeing your picture and then this flashing light. So I think, and now I lost my train of thought, but what you're saying is that if the outcome didn't indicate, I mean, many of you who are following me, you know that I have posted a graphic that showed all the outcomes. And through all that research that we have uncovered in the last year and a half, it is indicative that when you use a human name, it results in all of these outcomes. If we don't have a single Google story, and there's a reason for that, and that's because it's not a human name. But here, Alexas don't want to be Alexa anymore. You hear the Alexa that says, "Daddy, you tell them my name," and not because she's shy, but because of the response that she is getting from people. When you have the Alexa who no longer wants to wear her name tag because she's tired of the continuous comments. When you have an Alexa that's going into a Zoom meeting and
adults, these are adults too, by the way. Just wanted to point that out.
Right, yeah. Absolutely. But she's no longer Alexa. We're going to call you the letter A, or we're going to call you a completely different name. When you have, I'm thinking of my passion is obviously with children. And when I look at impact on children, that's when my, feelers go up and go, what's going on here? And I think when I came into this movement, and I think Lauren can say the same, is that it was more about the teasing piece. But as you start uncovering those outcomes, you realize that it's much deeper than that. And that's what I find, that many people understandably think that it's a surface level problem. And they're not looking at those pieces under the surface of the outcomes that are happening on a continual basis. And that's why I think you will see some of the misunderstanding that might happen within our group is the persistence of, we are still here a year and a half later. I'm sure there's a group of people who say, I'm fine, you go away, but we're not doing this to bother people. It's really about the future of voice tech. It's about the future of education. How it's going to impact if we do not look at this problem and say, what is happening when we use a human name? And if we start having other companies that start using names, Ziggy is a name. I don't know how many there are, but it is a name. And so what's going to happen? We have Josh, and then we're going to have Emily. I know Lauren, but at what point do we start examining those outcomes? I don't know. I'm kind of going off on.
People need to use their name. Everybody needs their name. It's really important for human communication. And if there's something out there that's making it hard for people to use their name, then there's a problem. And Nick, you mentioned about your wife and how she talks about the device, saying she or she's stupid. And there is a lot of abuse that gets hurled at Alexa. People scream. I've seen many tweets where people are talking about hearing their neighbor screaming at Alexa. I mean, there's, as Lauren mentioned, there's 250 million devices out there now, more and more every month, millions more every month, that answer to that name. And people are screaming it everywhere. And it isn't like somebody having the same name as you, unless there's somebody out there who has the same, 250 million people who have the same name. Even the most common name on earth, there aren't that many people. It's just everywhere, and you can't escape it. And people abuse it, and you have to hear it. You have to hear people yelling orders everywhere. You can't use your name. It's just, there's so many facets where this is wrong. And even though, as you said, Nick, that, there's maybe a reason why they gave it a person name, because it makes people trust it more. It's not a reasonable thing for any company to do because of the aftermath, because of the outcomes. Just because it might help them sell more devices. It's not a fair exchange here. Just because I don't want to give up my name to bolster Amazon's bottom line. That's not something that I think is a reasonable expectation.
Yeah.
Right. So what have the biggest challenges and frustrations been with raising awareness?
You can change the wake word is a big one. Like, we can go around forcing people to change their wake word when, as I pointed out before, that's not even a possibility a lot of the times. And like, we're supposed to get into this negotiation wherever we go, because these devices really are everywhere. They're in businesses, they're in doctors' offices, they're in classrooms, they're in cars, they're portable. Like, do we really want to have this interaction every single time? Like, can you please turn off your echo frame so I can say my name? Can you please turn off your device so I can say my name? I mean, and then it's like you're always confronting people. So change the wake word is a big one.
So real quick, if you were queens for the day, and we could start out with Lauren, and we'll go to Alexa and then Jennifer, what would you do? Like right now, you got the keys to the castle. What would be your best answer? And you can't say do away with the name Alexa. Like let's say Amazon put that restriction on you, right? You can't do away with the name; it has to be there. But what would you do if you were running the company per se? Lauren, would you go first?
Yeah, but I can't answer that question because my only answer is a rebrand. So I really can't answer that question for you, because here's the thing. People have said to me, Amazon's never going to change it. They're not going to change it. But they have to. It's completely unethical. And we have teenagers who are suicidal over this, okay? We have sexual harassment. We have teenagers that reach out to me that, will blatantly say to me, I haven't told my parents, I haven't told my friends, but this is bothering me. And they're coming to confide in me. And then, there are women who have spoken up who are, kind of, we are all here for like the same goal. I mean, I know we have separate websites, we have kind of separate things, but at the end of the day, we're all here for the same goal. And we have people that, reach out to us, in different ways, regardless of, we may have different like tactics of how we go about this, but I can't answer that because I think it has to be done. When the impact has gone to bullying, severe bullying, kids in therapy from as young as 5 years old through teens, you've got suicidal ideation, you've got sexual harassment. it has to be rebranded. I mean, there's just no, unless Amazon wants to be last, and I don't think they do, you know, I mean, they have to look at the risk here, right? What is the risk for Amazon? If they keep a female name or a human name at all, then they're risking being last in this game. And I don't think that's what Amazon wants. So that's my answer. And I know it's not what you asked, but yeah, I don't think there is there is no plan B. There's no second solution in my mind.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Alexa?
Well, given the stipulation that you made, I will say that my number one thing, if it's not completely eradicating Alexa as a wake word for these devices, is for Amazon to lift their to extend in their Alexa voice services to allow any of the other alternate wake words for products that use that, the AVS.
Yeah, that's a good one. I honestly, and I know Lauren probably isn't going to be happy with this comment, but I think that's probably going to be, if I were you guys, and we'll give Jennifer a shot here, but I think that's like a healthy compromise, to be honest with you. I mean, in some respects, I really do, because at least you're affording people that option. Like you said, use an AVS, you don't even get that option. So it's, you know, that's kind of crazy. Jennifer, go ahead.
You're on mute, Jennifer.
Oops, sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry. I know I push unmute and then Nick is muting. I'm letting him do it. So anybody that's following me on Twitter knows that I firmly believe in the rebranding of Alexa. And the reason for that is because of the outcomes. And what I think people, especially Amazon, if anyone in Amazon is listening to this, I encourage anyone and everyone in the voice tech industry, primarily Amazon, is to think about the outcomes and what it is that we are asking this group of people to do on a continual basis. And so if we that's something I do in this movement, is thinking of what would it look like for an Alexa. She goes into a home in which they have a smart home and their entire house is set up for the Alexa, products. What does that look like for that Alexa? Now, for adult Alexas, it's going to be different than the children. Are we expecting them to go, hey, do you mind changing the wake word for the devices that you can? Or do they need to be bombarded with their name? And, that name confusion? Mm-hmm. They need to whisper their name. I mean, there's all these things that we're not, I don't think, putting thought and consideration into. So, Nick, I didn't really answer your question. I mean, it's I believe firmly that Amazon needs to rebrand based on the outcomes that we have. I think it can be done. We talked to some top voice technologists, and I asked them these tough questions. Can it be done? And it can be done. And I know that it has more to do with the brand. Amazon versus Apple. When you think, we don't hear about Siri the same way that we hear about Alexa, and it's because of their marketing strategy and how when it's the first thing you hear about Amazon is Alexa when it's so
yeah.
I'll give a quick example too. We were at a friend's pool recently, and there's a bunch of kids around, a bunch of parents, and if anyone's a parent and you have kids, you never want yours to be the one that's like causing trouble or getting in trouble, right? You have that kind of like, oh no, that wasn't my kid that did that, right? Mm-hmm. And we yep. Yeah, and so you were there and we're all outside, and they have an Echo, and a lot of times if I'm close with the people, I will say, do you mind unplugging it? Like, if she's going to be there, I just don't want to cause, any issues. So do you mind unplugging it? Is that okay? Just while she's there. And most people are pretty good about it. I don't like doing it. It's awkward because it's A, not my personality, and B, it's very awkward. But in any case, so I didn't ask him to turn it off, and I wasn't even thinking about it. We're all kind of sitting, having a glass of wine, but the kids are hanging out, and the mom starts going, Alexa, volume 7. And I was like, whoa, I mean, it scared me. I was like, ah. And then it must not have heard her. So she starts leaning toward me and she's like, Alexa, volume 7. Now I didn't realize it's behind me, but this is the way she's speaking to it. And my daughter's sitting there like, whoa. And I didn't say anything. But in my head, I'm thinking, okay, imagine if I'm screaming your kid's name. But people don't think of it that way because they've associated so much with an object versus a name that no one even batted an eye. And I'm sitting here going, oh my God, you're screaming at my kid like she just pushed yours in the pool or something. It's so weird. It's like, it's inexplicable. You just really have to experience it to get it. It's very weird.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point there. And like I said, I think it goes back to that whole process, that whole thought mind process. But it was kind of funny, and just to lighten up the mood a little bit, was how this all started. So the whole point was to have Lauren on the show. So I reached out to Lauren before I left Michigan, and I said, hey, I'm moving across country. Can we push this back to July 22nd? She's like, sure, no problem. And then I'm online, and I send out a tweet like, if you get an Amazon Alexa, like, what are the 3 top skills that you would want to tell people about? And then Jennifer chimed in and said something like, instead of being worried about skills, maybe you should be worrying about using proper English.
That was another Alexa, the one, an Alexa in Germany. I think
was another one?
It was a translation issue, actually. She didn't mean to be coming off as being rude. It was sort of like a translation thing.
Because Nick was like, who's hijacking my Twitter feed? Like, that wasn't the point, So.
Wait a minute, that wasn't Jennifer?
No, it wasn't me. So, but I remember that piece because I know it was the real Alexa, and I know the real Alexa. I knew that wasn't her style, and I said, "Ooh, where did that come from?" And I actually reached out to her and said, "Hey, what did you mean by that?" And it, like I said, it wasn't. It came out the wrong way, but yeah, it was obvious. There was some tension, and then there's no denying there is some undercurrent happening. I that, and I think it's because you all are passionate about voice tech. It is your domain. We are here in your space because we've essentially been forced into this space. I would be more than happy to say, nice knowing you all, but I'm going to head back over to the education sector. And I would love nothing more than that. But because of the choice that Amazon made, they essentially forced a group of people into this space because of the problems that are happening. And if you look at, you've got Amazon, and I kind of look at them at the doors bolted shut, and a little bit of that willful blindness that's happening. And then you got the Alexas in the middle who are saying, hey, what's going on? I can't even introduce myself without somebody making a comment. And then you have the voice tech world who says, hey, I love tech. I just want to do my thing, and it's not my problem. So there's this weird space of, okay, then what are we going to do about this? And I firmly believe, and that's where my passion comes in. I really believe that if the voice tech industry would maybe not take our group as much of a threat, that, we are not here to throw anybody under the bus. That was not our intent. I know what that you're talking about. We're here just to say, hey guys, what do we need to do? Because it's going to happen again. What do you think? Do you see another voice tech company picking another name? And I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. So,
well, what's funny about that, just not to cut you off, but what's funny about that is that Samsung actually did that. They have Samsung. It's like the name of the girl is Samantha. But if you look it up, that's their personal assistant that they've branded. And it's, pretty, a beautiful young girl with big eyes, brown hair, and like she's out there. And it's the whole thing is very interesting. One of the comments I wanted to make while it's rattling around in my head was, I know you guys are loosely affiliated, but have you guys ever thought about creating bylaws and joining forces, really joining forces and galvanizing? Have you thought about, going on to being a part of the open voice network like Emily and doing something through that angle? Because, and I've just met Alexa and I just met Jennifer, but Lauren, Lauren was at Project Voice a couple years ago, and Lauren, spoke. She got out there. She waved the flag, and there's a lot of respect that Lauren has garnered in the voice tech community. Have you guys thought about doing that too? Like where do you stand as far as like a unified front and getting out there and doing all that kind of stuff?
So we have, I think, like I said before, we have different sort of tactics, and I think the end game is all the same. And we are kind of a larger group, and there are some things that are separate, and there are some things, but at the end of the day, we all support one another for the end game, right? Which is exactly what we want. We want to raise awareness, and we want to, for Amazon to rebrand. It's kind of funny. I've pretty much given up on social media. I will post things out, and if I'm following someone, then I will like things here and there, but I can't do Twitter. It's just not in my nature. And, I give these guys a lot of credit because they will stand up for people. I think to understand it a little bit better is probably like any examples that we give. When you see, no matter what, even if it's like VoiceSpark, or if it's, I don't know, someone just saying like #Alexa for whether it's in education or whatever the specialty is, it stings. And that's, I think, what people don't understand. So when someone responds back on social media, it's because what you've just said hurt them. It stings, right? And so you're thinking, oh, like they're probably, offended by what I said, but it's the fact that Alexa was included in it, if that makes sense. But I don't know. I mean, I have to I gotta give it to these ladies because I social media, I've kind of, it's not a good world for me.
So I think something that is a little bit misunderstood is that when we first started this movement, the only place that we got our information was Twitter, and then we were having parents and Alexa that were reaching out. But that's where we got a lot of our data. That's how you all have seen this multiple times on my tweets. That's where we got the themes. And when I developed the website, that's when I said, okay, now what do we do with all this data? And Nick, I would absolutely be open, and I'm not speaking for Lex a lot, but I would be open for that open voice network. I have seen a lot of their work, and I'm impressed with what they have done. It's in direct alignment with what I believe is important. The standards, I'm huge on standards, and I believe it needs to be standards set in education. And in looking at what is voice in education going to look like? Voice is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And the question is, what are we going to do with that? And how do we train our teachers to use voice assistants? And so there's a lot of work to be done. And this is newer. This is a newer platform. So absolutely. I agree with making connections, and we are making connections behind the scenes that people don't see. I would be open for Open Voice Network if, with the understanding that we are spending time talking about some of those issues, and mostly how do we resolve them? How do we fix it? It's not, you can keep talking about it, but if you don't get to resolving it, then it's just a never-ending cycle.
I was actually curious if you've seen any changes from the work you've done so far.
Definitely. Yeah. It's, and I started a podcast, which is out of my realm completely. I worked in biopharmaceuticals my entire career. So all of this, everything is new. And it's called Wake Up, The Truth About Alexa, a little bit of pun there, which I can't take credit for. A friend of mine actually recommended the first part. But I think actually I would love to have all of you on, anybody who wants to. And, I invite whether you agree with us, don't agree with us, because for this podcast, everyone's hearing all of our opinions, but I would love to hear yours too. So if you ever want to come on, and, it's open, it's to not only people that have experienced this, but also to anyone in the tech industry or education or psychology, that sort of thing. And I think that will help to get the discussion out there. We're also in the process of incorporating as a nonprofit, which I don't know if you've ever done that before, but it's a long process, legal process and all of that. So we're doing that, and we're reaching out in different ways. So yes, we're definitely beyond social media, but Yeah, it's a lot because you have to remember too that this isn't a career for any of us. This is for me. I call it my 9 to 11 job. It's after the kids go to bed, so I do this from 9 to 11, pretty much. And so, yeah.
There
I
was
like
oh, sorry.
I was going to say I like that. I like that analogy. I might have to steal it.
Sorry, Alexa, what were you about to say?
I was going to answer about whether or not I feel like we feel like we've made progress, and I think that we have made enormous progress in raising awareness. I don't know if any of you have seen the BBC article that came out earlier this month. I think it was the 2nd of July. And the article didn't touch on all of the aspects, the problems. It touched on a few of them. But there was a radio show called The Jeremy Vine Show that people were calling in and talking about their experiences, and they went into more depth. And after that article came out, a lot of other news organizations picked it up. And people just have been starting to talk about the issue more, and not just certain aspects that were covered in those articles, but just in general, like getting into some of these other problems. So I've seen just in the last month, I've seen an enormous change.
Great.
Can I add something? Oh, so in terms of progress, I think for me, the way I operate is that if I'm going to bring an issue to the education sector, because that is my domain, I feel like I have to have the data to show it and a solution. And so I know that one of the next big steps for me and anybody else in the group that will be contributing is finding those leaders in education and saying, okay, we've got 80,000 Alexas under the age of 18. What do we need to be doing? These are the outcomes that we're seeing with teachers. We're seeing teachers that, we have all kinds of stories of teachers that are, what do we have? We have one teacher that said, oh my gosh, I hope I don't get an Alexa in my class. When you think about that, it just blows my mind in some of the responses that we get. But I don't think it's done out of maliciousness. I think it's done because they don't understand it. And so now, because I have all the data, I feel more confident in going into the education sector and what do we need to do. And I've reached out to a couple of that are in ed tech. And sorry, Nick, I keep looking at your face, and it's just a picture of you. Anyway, I need to.
I'm sorry.
I don't know why. It's just throwing me off. I'm not used to the podcast.
I'm lucky. I don't have to look at his face.
No worries.
It's just throwing me off. But anyway, I have talked to some leaders in ed tech, and when I shared some of their stories, they get it. It doesn't take but a second for them to go, well, that's an easy fix. We just need to not have the wake word Alexa in education. But it's figuring out who are the leaders, who are the change agents, who are the ones that are going to say, okay, we've got a big problem in front of us. What do we need to do? So, but I still think the accountability piece lies with Amazon. I think that Amazon needs to step up and look at this problem without being threatened by it, I guess.
Right. Okay. So we are over the hour mark. So I'm going to ask my last question, and then I'll hand it over to everyone else, and if they have any other last questions. So you mentioned that you've reached out to Amazon. Have you gotten anything other than the generic response that you've talked about? Or has it pretty much?
There was a response to the BBC article.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, I'd say, I don't know what you guys think, but I mean, from what I've seen, that is the most direct response, and that's all I've seen, just to the BBC.
Okay. Wow.
I do want to add to that BBC piece. They said that you can just change the wake word. I think it's important that we understand there's a whole lot of product and you can't change it. So they're already in that statement, not fully educating the public on some of that. So.
And people don't want to change it. People are comfortable with what they've gotten used to. So there's that whole issue too.
Yeah, I want to comment real quick on that what Alexa just said. We had two of them that were in close proximity in my house, and I had to change one of the wake words to echo, and oh my God, did it take a long time to get used to that. You have no idea. Like kids were saying it, kids were going right up. My kids were going up to it and looking at right in the screen and saying, "Why isn't this thing working?" You know, my wife was calling me an idiot. You know, so it's it's crazy, and I think it all goes back to that one saying that if you tell a joke and 99 out of 100 people think it's funny, maybe it's not funny. You know what I mean? So it's sort of that same analogy. Like if 99 people out of 100 are okay with calling their smart home devices Alexa, maybe that's not the right process. Maybe they need to look at that and rebrand it.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, Nick, because I had just recently had a conversation on the podcast with a mom who changed her daughter's name. And she was talking about how it was hard for her to adjust to call her daughter something different. But in the exact same way that you're talking about your speaker. She was, I think, 3 when she changed it. She's like 4.5 now.
I can't even imagine that. Like whenever you name your child, like for one, I almost think that like I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. And like whenever you're given a name, it's not necessarily like your parents gave that name, but this is Nick Saka, and I just had a truly, so I'm a little bit wonky, but it's almost like the universe gave you that name. You know what I mean? So for you to actually go against that and say, I'm just going to change my kid's name and she's 3.5 years old, like to me, that just blows my mind. Like that's deep. That's deep.
Yeah, it makes you realize how severe it is, right?
Yeah.
But just also the outcome, the 14-year-old that changed her name. I asked her mom, I said, so how is she doing now? And she said, it's like it was before this happened. And, she has a different name now.
But it's no solution. People actually have told me, just change your name. You don't like it, don't change your name. I'm going to react to hearing my name, the name I've had for decades. I'm going to react till I'm dead. That's ingrained, that's imprinted on my brain. So people changing their name is a last resort that, these parents were choosing while their child, well, not in that case that Jennifer just mentioned, but they're doing it as an absolute last resort when nothing else would work.
2 more questions I have for you. The first one is, and this is for all 3 of you, and it could be a simple yes or no. Do you use smart assistants in your house?
Yes.
Okay. Alexa, do you?
Nope.
Okay. Jennifer?
No.
No. Okay, cool. So then the second question is, have you subscribed to VoiceSpark on YouTube?
We will tonight.
Boom! Mission accomplished.
3 more. There we go.
3 more.
Hey, listen, let me tell you something. It took 1 hour and 8 minutes to get a smile out of Alexa, and I finally did. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Ben. Your question.
Oh, no, you know what? I think, ladies, you've definitely answered the question I was going to ask. It's obviously what you want to see happen in the voice community. It's clear. That's my typical go-to question for everyone. And I appreciate what you're doing. I really do. I think it's a really noble fight. I was thinking on the fence and for a little while, but then I was digging into your work, and I'm like, this is a valid reason. And I think again, reaching out to OVN, I think there's a lot of really great professionals, including Emily and Nick, that are over there that are they're trying to create an ethical standard that will last for the entire voice community. So yeah, definitely reach out to Emily and anyone over there. Really, like they're really trying to make some really great headways, and I think there's like a lot of really hopefully good decision makers that'll be able to see their work, the ending work. of that too. So
are you inviting us, Ben? Are you saying we're welcome?
Oh, I can't do that. I don't have that power. I'm just saying reach out because there's a lot of really, really great people. I don't have that I can't make
I agree.
that
No,
one.
I agree. I absolutely think there are a lot of incredible people in voice tech. It's impressive. I came into this, I didn't know the difference between deep learning and machine learning and just all this terminology. I was like, what is it? Mm-hmm. It's an incredible field. I don't want to ever think that people think that we don't respect the field. We do. We just, feel like that there is a better option. I would be open to voice tech, open voice network and collaborating. I think a lot of us would be. So
that's awesome. So Liam, final question for tonight.
Okay, I think I may have the most important question of the evening, and I've been saving this for last. If you're into sports, who is your favorite sports team and why?
Easy.
Who wants to go first?
No one wants now.
Lauren,
I know it's tough.
For everyone?
Go for it.
Red Sox, Boston Red Sox.
I don't know if we can be friends.
Thanks
for David Ross though, and Lecky, and
but I'm also a huge soccer fan, which never goes over well in a conversation for a conversation starter, but I am.
Who's
someone else?
Lexalot.
Pass.
All right, Jennifer.
Oh, St. Louis Cardinals. I'm
a Cubs fan, so
I live in a different part of the country, and they have a huge baseball team, and I would never go to them.
You don't live in St. Louis.
Yeah. All right. Yep.
Nice. All right, so I want to just give a final thank you to our sponsor this month, Lotus Productions. If you need professional voiceover work of any kind for anything, go see Lotus Productions. They've been doing voiceover work and handling voiceover artists for the past 30 years. They're located in New York. And I'd also like to extend a thank you to the three lovely ladies that joined us this evening, Lauren, Jennifer, and Alexa. Thank you for coming on and sharing your stories. And we really appreciate it. And you guys are always welcome back.
Genuinely,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. And Emily, if you want to, you can close out the show.
Sure. Okay. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks for tuning in.
Good night.
Thank you.